Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another special episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host tonight, ObjectivelyDan, and I am joined by all the other hosts of Truth Wanted. It is a 4-person show tonight, a brand new thing for Truth Wanted, unprecedented, never done it before. We're going to see if this thing works. This is Truth Wanted, folks. This is a show where we talk to you about what people believe and why, live on Fridays every single week. And I am here with all of my friends. On the left of me is ExXtian Erin. So hello. Erin.
Hello,
We've got
everyone.
Puck gone beneath me there. Puck, what's going on?
Yeah, that I think they're making a bold statement by putting me here. They're making sure I know that no matter what I do, I'm always going to be.
Come on.
I get it.
Come
I
on.
get it. And we also know, like this, if we were standing together, this is about the right height difference.
You know what? That's not wrong.
No.
That's not wrong. That is true. We have hung out in real life, and there is quite a bit of difference. But in our corner here, last but not least, we have our newest host, our freshman host of the show, MDAware. Hello.
Diametrically opposed to you, Dan. It seems.
Diametrically opposed. Yes, in all things for sure. But this is going to be a fun one. This is our kind of April Fool's / almost 20,000 subscriber special. We didn't quite get to 20K, but you know what? I'm just calling it right here because we were like, what? It's going to be April Fool's on that Friday. We have to do something. So why not have a show with 4 hosts? It's kind of wild. We don't typically do that, at least in the call-in show format. So we're going to see if this thing works, just to try it out. Because we're all about trying new things here at Truth Wanted. So if you are interested in talking to any of us tonight, you can call the number below. It's 512-991-9242. Or you can call into the show at tiny.cc/calltw. And we would love to talk to you. But before we talk to some folks tonight, we have a little bit of a game that we're going to try before we get this show started. So in keeping with the theme of wanting the truth, we are going to play 2 truths and a lie. So if you're not familiar with this game, it's quite simple. Each of us are going to give 3 statements, and 2 of those statements are going to be true. One of those statements is going to be a lie. And after that, other hosts will guess to see which ones are the true ones and which ones are the lies. And then we'll see who wins from there. So I am going to kick this thing off by starting with me, and then we're going to go clockwise in who's going to be guessing. Look at that one up. My face is just so big there. My goodness. Okay, so here is my 2 truths and 1 lie. Now, this doesn't have to be obviously in that order. It could be in any order that we give out. So everybody has to be ready for this, okay? So here's my 3 statements. Number 1, I have a license to drive a car. All right, pretty straightforward. Number 2, I have a certification to scuba dive. Okay. And number 3, I am certified to fly a plane. So 2 of those things are true. 1 of those is a lie. So we're starting off with, we're calling Dana Bart. We got like a Brady Bunch thing going on with the names there that switch up in case you haven't noticed. So you would definitely have to explain that to me because I don't remember the characters of the Brady Bunch. I only remember that like Marsha thing that like went around for a long time. But anyway, Erin, you're going to go first. Which one of these do you think is true? Which one do you think is false?
It's 1 lie, right? 2 truths, 1 lie?
1 lie, 2 truths and 1 lie.
I am going to say that the lie is number 3.
Okay. So you don't think I can fly a plane?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that you can't fly a plane.
All right. Well, I'll have you know, Erin, I can do anything I set my mind to. So I'm not going to let you, bully me now, but that's okay. Now we're going to go clockwise here. So MDAware, which are the two truths and which is the lie?
Okay, I think this is a bluff. I think this is a ploy that you're running. I think.
When am I not
lie-
running a ploy,
I
MD?
think
Come
the
on.
lie is that you have a driver's license.
Oh, okay. A bold guess that I can't drive a car. Interesting.
No, that you don't
Now-
have a license to drive a car.
Don't have a license. Okay. All right. So it's the specifics in my wording.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Think I'm being legalistic here. All right, Puck, what do you think?
Yeah, I just to complete the cycle, I'm gonna go with scuba diving because you live in the middle of Texas. Like, where would you even go scuba
Oh my
diving?
goodness. So all three of you have guessed 3 different things.
Yes, I'm
that
gonna
is
go- yeah.
interesting. All right. Well, the answer to this is I do have a driver's license and I am now certified to scuba dive. I cannot fly a plane. So I got my scuba diving certification when I was 16. Don't ask me how. My dad just knew a guy and we somehow got discounts for classes. I have gone scuba diving like twice since then. And I went in Florida one time. It was really cool. But yeah, I haven't used it since I was a teenager. So we definitely want to get updated on my classes again. But yeah, I'm still technically certified. That is like a lifetime certification, I believe.
You should do it
So-
more.
Yeah.
I just got certified, and my wife and I went to Cozumel, and we dove like 17 dives in a week, and it was crazy and intense and awesome.
There you go. I saw on your
They just have, like,
Facebook. You got the scuba dive pics. So yeah, that looked
Yeah.
fun. I was like, I wonder what he's gonna guess. So Erin, you got the 1 point this time. So
Who's keeping
congratulations.
score?
Thank you.
I'll keep
Oh,
score.
thank you.
Well, MD's keeping score. Okay, great. So Erin, now it's your turn. What's your 2 truths and 1 lie?
Okay. So my 2 truths and 1 lie. The first statement is number 1, I have given myself a tattoo.
Ooh, okay.
Statement number 2, I threw up in the courtyard in front of the Sistine Chapel.
Ooh, so specific. Okay.
And number 3 is I lost my virginity at church camp.
Holy shit, Erin!
I know. I know.
You're pulling no punches. Holy shit. Okay. Well, that is an interesting collection of statements. MD, you're first to guess on this one.
Okay. I know too many people who lost their virginity in and around a church setting to think that that's a lie. So I'm going to guess the Sistine Chapel one.
No,
All right. So Puck is next.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say that I think the most convincing truth is the one that is most convincing lie is the one that's sandwiched between 2 truths. So knowing the audience, I am actually gonna go with the church camp one. And also, why
okay.
was I Rose? I'm the oldest one here. I should have been. Never mind.
See, I agree with MD's reasoning, but my conclusion's different. I think the losing virginity at church camp story is common enough to where we would think that that's the true one, but I think that's actually the lie in this situation. So I'm going to guess that one is the lie. So Erin, what's the truth here?
The truth, no, the lie. I'll say the lie is.
The lie. Yeah,
The lie is I did not lose my virginity at church camp,
called it.
but I did
Got
throw
it.
up. I did throw up in the courtyard in front of the Sistine Chapel, and I have given myself a tattoo.
Wow.
Wait, do you still have it?
Yeah, it's this one you guys see all the time.
Oh, I didn't realize you did that. That's awesome.
That's not even in like an ergonomically favorable position.
Yeah, I'm
It's,
trying to
For
figure
those
out
of you
how
listening at
you
home,
do
it's
that.
right on Erin's
Well,
wrist.
I am not for hire. Like this was. I haven't got it covered up. I've thought about
What
it.
is it?
It's a
What is
spoon.
it attached to? Oh, it's a spoon? Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
I'm just
There it
trying to
is.
figure out how did you do that? Did you
It's
how
a-
was your wrist?
Oh no, it's fine. You're just like. But I did it was a stick and poke style tattoo. So
okay.
Steak
I've
and
also
poke,
tattooed-
baby.
my husband,
Prison
and
tattoo style.
several of our friends.
Classic. Well, that I'm gonna be honest, that was awesome. This was a great set of 3 that we got to pick from there. I'm excited to see what MD is bringing to the table. So MD, you are next.
Okay. 3 statements. Okay, number 1, I have worked as a game designer for an escape room. Number 2, I have been on an African safari. And number 3, every Saturday, I play polo riding a horse named Mouse.
Okay, interesting. So, Puck, you're starting off on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I hope it's the first one because that's like my dream job. And if you got it before I did, then I'm going to be extremely jealous.
Wait, but you're guessing which one's the lie.
That's what I hope is the
Okay,
lie.
So you think that one's the lie? Okay,
He's jealous.
all right.
It's wish thinking. He's using
Okay.
wish thinking.
Yes.
I'm gonna think. I'm gonna say number 2 because you playing polo on Saturday, I'd like to imagine is real, and also knowing your knowledge of video games, I wouldn't be surprised if you worked as a game designer. So that leaves the odd one out, being number 2 there. So that's my guess. So Erin, what do you think?
Jeez, I don't know. I do feel like number 3 is so specific, but I got you guys on that same kind of idea. So I'm also going to go with number 2, safari, because I don't know when you've had time to travel and do that.
Very interesting. So all right. So I have worked as a game designer for an escape room. That is true. And I have been on safari.
Oh,
It was a bluff. Oh my gosh.
it was the bump. Yeah, you know what? You're a busy guy. I would be surprised if you were going out on a horse every other Saturday. That
So did I
makes sense.
trick you all?
I think
Yep.
you did.
Clean
Yeah.
sweep.
Oh,
You got a clean sweep on us.
I'm going to give myself a point for that.
I guess so. I mean, might as well at this point. So that's interesting. Like very different rounds every time. So Puck,
Honestly, Dan, my safari question was I'm a certified scuba diver, and then you said it, and I was like, well, shit, I got to change it now on the fly.
there you go. Yeah, well, that's we're just, for people who want the truth, we're certainly not super great at figuring it out when it comes to this game.
Well, but we're not asking any follow-up questions. Like, we're not really
true.
getting
No.
into it. We're going
We're
based
not-
on
how do you-
intuition.
How do you know that you lost your virginity at church camp, right? Yeah, nobody's asking that.
Well, I mean, virginity is like a social construct, but I would say
That's
based on
true.
that common understanding of virginity, I did not do that.
Yeah. See, there you go. It's those kinds of things. Well, Puck,
Yes.
you are bringing up the rear here. What are your 3 statements that you want to give to us?
Okay. All right. Between Truth Wanted and 2 other ACA shows, Secular Sexuality and Nonprofits, plug. This is my 27th ACA appearance. Let's see. Second, I have played every main series Final Fantasy game. And third, I have been married to a Christian for 11 years.
Okay, so I like that I'm Newman in this lineup, by the way. For those listening at home, they keep changing the names every time. And I'm Newman. Puck is George Costanza.
And I'm balding, so this is a great way of
MD's Jerry Seinfeld, and Aaron's Elaine. So that's an interesting pick, guys. I'll put that much. Okay, so I'm going first on the guesses. Puck, I've met your wife, so this isn't a good one for me. So I know that one is true. It's between the other 2, and I'm gonna say that you actually counted, and you're gonna say like, oh, it was actually 28 instead of 27. So I think it's like number 1 is the lie there. That's my guess, and I know that you love Final Fantasy, so it wouldn't surprise me that you played all those. So Erin, what are your guesses?
I'm going to guess the same one as Dan. I'm going to say that the 27, because for the same reasoning, I know that you actually know the real number, and it's not 27 because that's a bluff.
Yeah, that's a very Puck thing to do. I think that's what would happen. Or it's actually, it hasn't been 11 years married. It's been something else.
Yeah.
That could be it too.
Oh, pedantry.
Oh, yeah.
See, this is a problem. I haven't been on a show with Puck Before now, I don't know him that well. Let's see. I feel like in the pre-show you mentioned that you haven't played one of the Final Fantasies, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's that one against all odds.
Okay, Puck, what's the truth here? Which of us got it right?
I actually did just count and verify that this is my 27th ACA appearance.
Ooh.
So, there you go. And yes, Stephanie and I have been married for 11 years. I have not played Final Fantasy 11.
Dang.
Yeah,
I was
Dang.
listening.
Just the one?
Just
was
the one.
not
I played.
listening to
I
the
played
video.
all the
Once
other main
you
series
play
games.
all other mainstream. Man, that's a lot of Final Fantasies, dude. It's not very final, is it?
No,
I guess people have made that joke,
yeah.
already, but it is what it is. Okay, so that concludes our round here. MD, you said you've been keeping score. So
Yeah.
who's the winner?
Well, this is oddly self-serving, but I'm in the lead with 2 points,
Okay.
followed by Dan and Erin with 1 point each, and unfortunately nothing for Puck. But I have a bonus round for you right this moment. Okay,
That's
so
right.
So when we were talking about this whole 2 truths and a lie thing, I took it like totally the wrong way because I was writing my thesis, and so I was thinking scientifically. And so what I have for you today is actually I have 3 true science news articles, science news items, statements, and 1 false one, and we're going to test out your BS detector.
You
and see
got
if you can-
3 true
Three true?
ones?
3 true and 1
my
false
goodness.
because I couldn't
Okay.
pick.
Okay. Are
Okay.
you gonna read the
I'll figure
articles, like the
No,
headlines?
no, we'll be
What are
here
you gonna
all
do?
night. No, okay, I'm gonna give you a 1-sentence summary
Okay,
of the findings. Okay, all right, ready?
let's do it.
Statement 1: researchers from Hong Kong have developed a fluid-based slime robot capable of navigating through narrow channels, grasping solid objects, swallowing and transporting harmful objects, and manipulating and repairing electrical circuits.
Whoa.
That's number 1.
I feel like Slime Robot was like a dude
That's
I
all I
knew in
wrote
high
down.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 2, scientists from the Netherlands have discovered that the combination of 3 specific wavelengths of light results in the perception of a previously unknown color when viewed by humans.
Okay. All right.
That's number 2. Number 3, researchers from Japan have created an RNA molecule that replicates and develops complexity without the use of cells. So outside of cells. And last one, American scientists have achieved inception in mice by implanting false memories by directly manipulating neurons.
Whoa. Is there like a mouse Leonardo DiCaprio that just shows up and like tells him it's all bullshit? That'd be awesome. I'd
That's
watch
for
that movie.
you to figure out.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's an interesting set of statements there. I think I have my pick, but we need to go in clockwise order. So, Puck, you're going first on this. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with the slime.
The slime?
I just
Slime.
don't know that motion has been handled to that precision yet. I don't know. I'm gonna go with slime.
Okay. I am going to go with the color one because what you said doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They combine things and then it's a new color to humans, but like, wouldn't it be a color regardless? Like, wouldn't it exist outside of the human spectrum of figuring things out based on like electromagnetic? I don't know. I don't know. That one does rub me the wrong way. So that's my guess. Aaron, what do you think?
Okay.
I was gonna go with number 3, but then I just saw the way that MDAware reacted to Dan, so I wonder if I should switch.
But if you
I'm
do
going-
3, we covering our bases
I know.
here. At least
I am gonna go. No, hang on. No, you know what? I'm gonna go with number 3 just so we can cover all of our bases and
Okay.
to also demonstrate that I have no idea.
true
All right,
skeptics believe in everything.
Which
so
one was
that
number 3? I randomized them.
The Japanese RNA development,
The
RNA one.
complexity
Okay,
outside
okay.
of the cell.
All right. So here we go.
I think the complexity one's also sus, but
Okay.
I'm sticking with my guess.
So let's start with the truth. So Slime robots, that's true.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting video you can look up. This was published in Advanced Functional Materials recently. So it's like they've got like a really thick magnetic particle, slime stuff that they manipulate with like external magnets, and they can make it do all kinds of crazy stuff. So that one's true.
Okay.
Researchers from Japan have created RNA molecules that can replicate, and they've recreated like evolutionary processes at the molecular level without the presence of like what we would call biological organisms, so no cells. And scientists in MIT have achieved inception in mice, and they've implanted false memories, which means that the false one is the color one. But this is based on something true. So if you know the color magenta, there's no actual wavelength of light that corresponds to magenta. And so what magenta is, it's a color that's created by our brains when we see a combination of blue light, which is around 400 nanometers, and red light, which is around 700 nanometers. And so we're not actually seeing like a magenta wavelength of like electromagnetic radiation. It's just the way that our brains perceive this combination, which is really interesting because it's one of those things where, magenta doesn't exist outside of, the biological organisms that perceive it.
Okay, good. My reasoning was there. I didn't say it quite as eloquently, but I think it was along the same lines. So there you go. I'm proud of my guess.
Yeah, good. So that means that Dan, you and I tie.
Oh, yeah. So I wonder how we will do a tiebreaker. Maybe people can vote and just say arbitrarily who do they think should win in the comments or in the chat.
And if that fails, we'll just resolve it by single combat, right?
I'm down for that too. You want to play some Smash Brothers? I'm into that idea. Whatever works. But anyway, guys.
Can you send me that article? I want to search for it, but I'm afraid if I search for slime robot, I'll end up on some weird Rule 34 website.
Yeah, it's some really cool videos. I think New Scientist posted a video of it on Twitter and probably their other platforms.
What Puck is saying is he's so used to searching that term, and he's surprised it hasn't come up already in his history. So he's trying to look for other parameters.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Just
Dan,
kidding.
for outing me. That's good.
I shouldn't make fun of Puck. Puck is you're one of the corner foundations of the show tonight, and so I think we should just honor that. A real pillar. I'd say you hold me up in some ways. Yeah, just like that. But anyway, we got to get to some calls, folks, because we are going into this show. We are going to take some calls in just a second, but first, before we do that, we need to thank the patron of the week, because every single week we always thank somebody who donates on patreon.com/truthwanted. We, of course, want to thank everybody that donates to the show, but we always like to give a special shout out. And if the crew is ready, we're going to put that on screen in just a second. This week's special patron of the week is Will Arnold. Thank you so much, Will Arnold. And Will, you're covering up Puck and MD right now, but that's okay. They're making it work. So thank you, Will Arnold, for donating. And thank you to everybody that donates on Patreon. You guys rock. You help make this show happen every single week. Just a reminder, all four of us here, hosts, we are all volunteers. None of that money goes to us. It doesn't go into our pockets. It goes towards the ACA and to help making Truth Wanted even better. So thank you guys so much for doing that. And with that out of the way, I think it's time to get some calls. What do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Totally.
All righty.
So how's it going to work? Are they going to pick?
Good question. So what I thought we would do is our callers should say who they want to answer first. And then I think we should keep going with the clockwise thing. I think that's working out so far. So let's try to stick with that. So our first caller is Barry. And Barry, go ahead and tell us what you want to talk about and then say who you want to answer first. So what's up, Barry?
Am I on? Oh,
you are on. It's
hi.
Barry from New Zealand. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. I was just going to say, if this new format works with you guys, you could just keep adding more and more hosts and it'll look like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be a whole Avengers situation. We're just gonna get everybody on. It'll be great.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Probably MDAware for this one.
Okay, go for it.
Hit
What do you
me.
want to talk about?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. This was about 5 years ago. A bit sad, really. My father had a brain tumor, and eventually they realized it was terminal. So we took him to a hospice. And while they were setting him up in the room, I stayed out in the corridor and I started reading a pamphlet, an introductory sort of pamphlet. And it said, here's a list of indicative behaviors that this person is on the way to dying, like they're about to die. And some of them were very, very specific and I thought a bit strange. So I read it and I was a bit cynical. I thought, oh, I can't believe this. And I put it away. Went into the room. Dad was all nicely set up. And me and the rest of the family spent the rest of the day with him, you know. To be honest, half the time his eyes were glassy and it was as if he wasn't really there anymore, you know. But every now and then he would sort of, a little life his old self would come back. Well, anyway, after a few hours, he suddenly sat upright and they gave him a little table and he started folding this towel very meticulously into squares. And that had been one of the things that I'd read in this pamphlet, that's something that they do at this point. And it was as if everything in the whole world was just centered on this towel. He'd put all his energy, physical and mental, into getting this task done, you know. So that was one of the things in the pamphlet, and that spooked me. Then later on, towards the evening, he suddenly, again, he just got up from a reclining position, took a lot of energy, you could imagine, and he wanted to go for a walk. Now, this apparently is such a common behavior that they actually had sensor mats around the bed so that it would set an alarm off so the nurses would come in. It happens so frequently. And that's exactly what happened. He suddenly said something like, I've got to go somewhere, or whatever it was he said. He was whispering, you know, but he actually vocalized it. The nurse came rushing in, sort of pushed him back down. She gave him some morphine, and basically he died later that night, early hours of the morning. And that freaked me out because that had also been on the pamphlet. And I'm thinking, one, what is going on in the person's head that they have to do these things? And it obviously happens so often that they can write a pamphlet about it. How do they know? I mean, like folding a towel? How do they know this stuff? So that's my question. What are your thoughts about this?
So I've never heard of this towel one. There are a lot of things that people do when they're towards the end of life. Some of the stuff you describe is associated with delirium, as like, which is just sort of a state of, I don't know, decreased consciousness, decreased awareness, that sort of thing. And it comes with disorientation and the desire to get up and walk around in sort of exit-seeking behavior. That can be part of it. There's a lot of behavior and like things that happen, things that like physical changes that people go through while they are nearing the end of life that are very reproducible. And they're well documented, right? And it sort of happens to everyone. It gets down to like some of our fundamental reflexes that are built into us from an evolutionary perspective. So I haven't heard of the towel one, but a lot of the other ones are very related to our, like, you know, our underlying reflexes to move and survive, and those you know, those things sort of deteriorating as people approach the end of life. And some of those are very, very reproducible. We see them all the time. But I'll have to look into this towel one. I haven't heard that one before or seen it.
Puck, did you have any thoughts?
No, I'm gonna punt. I have no real good experience with this. And I imagine that the people who do spend more amount of time studying this would want to put something together to say, here's what you can expect if you have a loved one who's in the hospital. So no, I've never heard of anything like this. It's intriguing to look up. There's no way I could meaningfully look this up in the time that I had here, but now I definitely want to look into it a little bit more. So thank you very much for bringing this up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing on that. I would say I have no idea either, but it is kind of fascinating to see that these behaviors are so predictable that somebody can write a pamphlet about it to help you out like in that time. I think that's really curious. My grandmother unfortunately passed away last year, and I never had a lot of family that I'm very lucky in the sense that not a lot of human family anyway that's died in my life. And when she was close to her end of life, she was talking a lot about her childhood home back in Maryland, and was talking about kind of almost like she wasn't there in the room. She was kind of there in another place and wanted to travel and get up and walk around and go places. So it's kind of similar in that sense. I wonder why that is. It's I very much of the opinion that humans are kind of like computers, and we're probably just short circuiting and shutting down at that point. And that's probably what was happening to her. She was getting to some recesses in her brain that made sense for her at that time, and that's really all there is to it. And unfortunately, people take these experiences and extrapolate them into, well, that's because she was talking with God or she was doing all this. And I obviously don't believe that, and I know you don't either, Barry, because I know you've called into the show before. But it is fascinating to see how weird people are at towards the end of their life. But Erin, did you have any comments on that?
Just a little bit more like to what you had all mentioned before. I have had some experiences with being with somebody near the end of their life, and I have family members who actually do work in the hospice area, and they've talked about these things, and there is like a lot of reported instances of like this kind of strange behavior as someone is like nearing the end of life. And some of it is like bodily function, like MDAware had mentioned, like their body is starting to that process of shutting down, but then also like psychologically and behaviorally, there are a lot of commonalities that are kind of, you would think that it's kind of just an anomaly until you were to hear that they've kind of gathered this info and they can give you some actual like predictions about how somebody is going to behave in those last few days too. So I'm not that surprised by it, actually. Like the folding, I'm not sure what the specific reasoning is for the folding of the towels, but like people do in the last few days before they pass away, there is some behaviors that come up that are kind of indicative to something that maybe from their childhood or from their important stages of their life, or something that actually brings them some sort of comfort, or like there are these things like that. And it's really fascinating to me. I'm not sure exactly why that would happen, but I've heard it explained that our bodies and our brains specifically are kind of there to try to protect us, and in a lot of ways maybe even protect us emotionally. So I think sometimes bringing back that like anything that causes kind of comfort or structure in those like last few days, it doesn't surprise me all that much that maybe somebody's behavior would go towards that near the end. So
sort of like a soothing behavior almost.
Almost like a self-soothing behavior. So there is a lot of actual research and documentation that's gone into this. You can go read about it on different hospice societies websites, and I'm not surprised that there's a pamphlet for it. I think the pamphlets do give people a little bit of comfort knowing that when their loved one is acting in these kind of bizarre ways in the end, that it's all part of the process, and gives people a little bit more like they don't feel like they need to maybe figure it out as they're experiencing it, because they've had a little bit of awareness that your loved one could act like that in the end. So I find it interesting always to hear about how each person's experience is different, but it's definitely not weird.
It's unfortunate because there's probably going to be a lot of things we won't know for a long time, right? Because for most people, it's pretty unethical to hook somebody up to an MRI machine while they're in the last stages of their life, and so because of obvious things like that, it's harder to study people at their end of life. But maybe there will be things we'll know in the future. I don't know, but it's a great call, Barry. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. And it's definitely an interesting topic to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thanks again, Barry, for calling in to us. And I just want to remind folks that we have some pretty open lines right now. There's 4 of us here tonight. So even if I know you guys don't like me as much, okay? I know you guys are here to see everybody else, but you can at least talk to them, and you can just kind of ignore me if you want. Like, that's an option tonight. You usually don't get this. I'm just saying, take advantage of the opportunities being given here. Okay, we got a lot going on. But anyway, please call in the number below if you have it. And I also want to remind you guys that there's other ways you can support this show too. And one of them is through our merch store. We got some cool merch that you should definitely check out if you haven't already. The link to that is going to be in the description. It's going to be a tiny.cc link for it. But we've got the shirts, we've got the hoodies, we've got all kinds of stuff that we want to show you. There's some of it on screen there. We also have the stickers and masks. So if you need any of that swag plus some other stuff, check out that link, tiny.cc/merch ACA. And we would love it if you would support the show. And for now, I think we should get to another caller. Let's talk to Michael, who wants to call in from California. Michael, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Michael. How are you doing?
That's good. I'm doing pretty good. When my grandfather died, he was a Zane Grey reader. He liked westerns and things like that. And I had to take care of him at one point. And he would be in, just out of it, but he'd be talking about being in the Wild West and shootouts and things like that. And that was very interesting. But I really caught in. Do you know who Maria Oliver is?
No,
Yeah,
I don't know who Maria. Do you guys know who that is?
No.
Nope, none of us know.
He was a
Vaguely
high
familiar,
school
but I don't
student.
know.
Okay.
He was a high school student who refused to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Her teacher made her sit down and write the Pledge of Allegiance of the Pledge of Allegiance. She sued. She won a large amount of money, and she also had mentioned that she was connected to American Atheists, but she refused to stand, is what she did, and she wouldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance. So, but the ACLU took the school on, and she won. So that's. I brought that up because I think it's interesting. I think she should be recognized. I think it's an opportunity for one of the programs to maybe make a connection with her and see if they can have a conversation with her, because I think she'd be very interesting being a high school student.
That is interesting. I'll go ahead and start taking on this one, and then we'll rotate from there. But when you mentioned the American Atheist history there, I realized that I had recognized this story before. So those of you who aren't, like, I know we have a lot of listeners who don't live in the United States. You may or may not know this, but from K through 12, right, kindergarten to 12th grade, so the entirety of your public school career, if you go to a public school, you have to stand up in the mornings, put your hand over your heart, and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Usually there's a flag in the classroom. Some places now, they probably have flags on TV screen. I don't know what they're doing for the pandemic, for homeschooling and stuff, or from virtual tutoring. Maybe they put a flag on the screen for you. I don't know. But this is something that everyone is required to do, including staff usually as well. And when we say required, we mean it pretty loosely because of this exact situation and others, right? Where the state cannot legally compel you to actually say it, but because of the social pressure of being the only person in the room, not standing up and putting your hand over your heart to say it, you're kind of obligated to do it. And I never grew up in other countries. I don't know how other schools do it. I'm pretty sure America is like one of the only countries that actually does this. Maybe there's some other ones. I don't know. Callers would have to tell me otherwise, but it is kind of a weird ritual that people are just kind of compelled to do because you're supposed to like pledge allegiance to this state that when you're in kindergarten, you have no idea what a state even is or nation, but you have to pledge your allegiance to it. And if the commies come and you gotta, and they're knocking down, you gotta be ready to I don't know what they want you to do when you're 5, but that's what they want. They want to like ingrain this sense of patriotism in you when you're pretty young. And I think this did start around that kind of time period where there was kind of a Red Scare thing going on, amongst other things like the God we trust being on our money, being added, wasn't always there on our currency. Could be wrong, but very, very interesting thing. And yeah, I agree. It's weird. We shouldn't make kids do it. That's just my take. But Erin, I'm going to pass this on to you. What do you think?
So Yeah, I'm Canadian as well as I think MDAware is also. So like we sang our Canadian anthem, but I don't remember there being any kind of like pressure to like do it under any kind of like discipline. So I don't know a lot about this story, but I guess I would side on the you shouldn't really maybe be forced to do something like that if it's I don't know there's a weird line there between just being respectful in class and going with that kind of thing, and also like this kind of weird authoritarianism or like nationalism that's kind of being forced on somebody. I do think it's kind of strange, especially when we're talking about elementary or like which is school aged kids. It just seems like a weird thing for me, but I don't have much more comments on it from that because I have to look into that story a little bit more. But if that is like a stand that somebody took and they ended up winning in court, I think it's definitely a case that should be maybe looked at and put forward a little bit more, especially if they are standing on something like, you know, your individual right to, you know, choose to do something like that. Anyway, so I'll pass it along.
It's definitely a freedom of speech issue,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, for sure. MD?
Yeah, I mean, like Erin said, I'm Canadian. We had to we sang the national anthem every morning, but I don't think that we were ever like forced in any way. And I also find nationalism very like weird. Shocker! All of these like self-proclaimed free thinkers are anti-conformity and all this stuff. Like real hot takes here. I don't really have anything to add.
Sure. Puck, what do you think?
You know, my experience is a little bit different because when I was going up in grade school, there was one person in class who actually did not stand for the pledge. And I guess back in those days, like we just had other things to deal with. And it would have been a bigger thing to make a big deal out of, hey, why are you sitting? Than to just allow someone to sit. And I'm glad. Thank you very much for bringing this case up. And now I have some research to do right along with that robot slime. And also pay attention to our flagship show, the Nonprofits Plug.
That's right.
Where they will they talk about a lot of issues like this and a whole bunch of other ways that religion and society conflict with each other. So now I've fulfilled my contractual obligation to Johnny to always mention the nonprofits at least once on every appearance.
There you go. Man, your experience is different from mine, Puck, because like they made us stand up. And when I say made, they're like, come on, you have to do it. You got to stand up. You got like, it was a very big deal if you did not stand up. There was probably occasions where kids didn't do it and they couldn't like legally do anything about it. But like growing up a kid in Central Texas, yeah, that was definitely a thing from my standing. So anyway, Michael, thanks for bringing this issue to our attention. I'm going to go ahead and let you go just for the sake of flow for today's show. But it's an interesting issue. I think we're all in agreement, though. You shouldn't have to do it, right? Like, you just shouldn't. I mean, I guess it's cool.
I kind of want to see the follow-up on this. I mean, like winning a settlement is one thing, but then did that have any meaningful further effects in that school district?
Well, it's kind of like when a school makes you do a prayer or something. Like, if you don't feel the same sentiment towards the United States, like, I don't know, you shouldn't force to pledge allegiance to it, even though it really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. I don't know.
But that's the thing, right? Like, what's the point? If the person is not saying it sincerely, then what's the purpose of the words? Like, what's the point of a pledge if you know that the person doesn't mean what they're saying?
It's just indoctrination towards patriotism,
right?
Like, I think that's the purpose, right? Because like when you swear on a Bible or whatever, or you swear in court that you're telling the truth, like that has like immediate legal implications, right? But like if you're just in a school environment and you're made to say a pledge, is an army recruiter going to be like, bro, you said the pledge like in 5th grade, so you got to come join us right now? Like there's no ramifications.
How do they enforce that, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the deal is there, but it's interesting to think about nonetheless. And before I take the next caller here, I want to remind you guys about another way you can support this show, and that is through our fundraiser. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see a little donate now button, and that is to donate to our fundraiser. That goes directly to the ACA. Because we are a nonprofit organization. So if you want to directly donate, that is a great way to do it. Go ahead and click that donate now button there. You should see it on the side if you are interested in doing that. So thank you to everybody who donates and helps support the show that way. Great job for you guys. And now let's take it to another call here. I want to talk to Stan, who's calling in from New York. Stan, what's going on?
How you guys doing, man? Thank you for the hospitality.
Of course. You're amongst friends here, I hope. So Stan, what do you want to talk to us about?
Basically, I would like to know what's your best objection against the morality of God.
The morality of God. So before we get into that, I'm assuming you mean the Christian God as most commonly interpreted?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So when you say the morality of God, you mean like God's understanding of morality or like his actions? Like, can you break that down a little bit?
Oh, how about his actions? If you have an objection with his actions, why not? Or anything he stipulates in the Bible.
Okay. Who do you want to start on this one, Stan?
Anyone who has an objection, a reasonable objection, of course.
I think we all got objections.
Go ahead,
I don't
Dan.
think that narrows it down very
You
well.
start,
I'm
Dan.
just going to say,
I vote for Dan.
let's say Puck. Puck, you start on this one.
Just about to take a sip, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Sorry about that.
So, yay long years ago when they came up with the metric system, the reason they came up with it was because they wanted to come up with a system of measurement that everybody could come up with if they had a reasonably sufficient laboratory. Okay. So they said, okay, the distance between the North Pole and the equator going through Paris is going to be how we determine what the length of a meter is or a kilometer. Then based on that, they have other things like you can figure out how much a liter is based on that. You can figure out how much a gram is based on that. Okay. And the reason they chose the earth and water as grounding, there's that buzzword, is because it's something that everybody can have access to and can easily figure out on their own. The problem with using God for morality for anything is that we don't have that same universal sense of grounding that we can all access and reference.
Yeah, I think that's very true. So this like inevitably comes up whenever we talk about morality. It's people ask us, well, what do you ground your morality on? You know, like it's this whole thing. And I don't know if that's a question that can ultimately be answered. I can like give you things on which I do ground it on, but they may not be objective. They may be based on my experience and what I think is right and what I think is wrong. And like my reasoning for that might be specious at the end of the day. But as a human being who has consequences for my actions and for the people around me, like, you know, there has to be some sort of system in order for us to get along for society. So, you know, it's more of a utilitarian, almost pragmatic sense for me. If you're interpreting God in the classical sense, like a being that exists, and also the Bible is like a recording of his actions, I would say that, I mean, pick a page of the Bible, honestly, if you want to see where the morality is at least questionable. I think the most egregious thing I was thinking about earlier today is the Noah flood story, right? Like if you interpret that as a literal history of events, God is basically a eugenicist. He's basically saying there are some human beings who aren't worthy of life and should die, and only my chosen people should be given life and be able to live. That's pretty messed up. Like, yeah, first of all, saying that you're a chosen, the Jewish claim to saying that they're God's chosen people sounds weird outside of the Jewish context. Like if I say I'm one of God's chosen people, that should give you red flags just in a normal sense, but also just like to think that you have this supreme relationship with the Almighty and therefore your actions are justified through that relationship. That's how people get like these authoritarian regimes and like authoritarian thinking that we're like still seeing today, like maybe more so now than in a long time. So yeah, I mean, like I said, pick a page. There's a lot of problems you can pick out with that. Erin, what do you think?
I agree with both of you, but since we're talking about maybe our best objections, I think, in my opinion, that the best objection to the morality of God or of the Christian God is that I think that we can explain our moral intuitions based on evolution. I think that there's like a good amount of information that we have going back into how we developed our kind of our points of morality. I think there's been a good studies even put out about this, about like the reciprocity and like different ways and the different points that we measure our morality on too. I think there's been very convincing studies put out there for that. So I think that we can explain our explain morality sans, or that's French for without God. I'm Canadian.
You
so
Canadians and your French.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I think
MD, what do you think?
I mean, we could go with any of these, but I actually want to hear what Stan thinks of what's been said so far.
Okay, yeah, Stan, what do you think about our conversation so far?
Thank you very much for the purpose of this exercise is to demonstrate how there's a big misconception on what Scripture actually reveals. Because if I were to take one of the examples that was provided, Genesis 6, the flood, right? If you're doing an internal critique, it will be appreciated if you actually stipulate the context in which this judgment was made. For example, are you
Really?
aware that Genesis 6? I didn't make the point yet. I'm going to make the point right now. For example, are you aware, according to the narrative established in Genesis 6, the people that were destroyed were not human beings. In other words, their genes were corrupted with that of fallen angels. That's clearly established in Genesis 6.
Stan, the Bible doesn't say the word genes in any particular translation you can think of. You can find any translation on earth. They don't talk about that. They do talk about human beings intermingling with giants, right? Angels there. But what does that not Stan? What the hell do you need context for mass murdering people? The fact that they have mixed genes with angels, how does that in any way justify killing millions of people?
Okay, can I respond to that accordingly?
Yes, please.
So, first of all, thank you. First of all, the word gene is not there. You're right. But it is deductively reasonably deduced, that if they are mingling with fallen angels, then their gene will be corrupted, and they gave birth.
Why does that justify killing them?
Well, because they're not human beings, and if you keep reading, you realize that they were cannibals. They were killing the people of the land. There were people that were belligerent. They're not human beings. So if you're gonna
two wrongs make a right.
Argue,
right,
I'm sorry. If you're gonna argue,
two wrongs make a right.
The morality of God. All I'm saying, and just to finalize, please quote it in context. So when you say that and trickle down this information to your people, they will understand. The audience will understand that these people weren't human beings.
I don't think any amount of context matters for genocide, my friend. Even if they're not human beings, if they have a capacity for suffering, like that's still a wrong thing to do. Like, first of all, I'm a vegan, so you don't have to be human to qualify for my moral standpoint. But outside of that, right? Like, I find your argument to be totally just out of thin air. Like that, you're saying that if I mixed my genes somehow, first of all, we have to prove that all human beings on Earth, except Noah's family, had mixed genes with Nephilim, which I don't even know if that's true. But even if that was true, you're saying those people are worthy of death just for existing. Like that is what you are claiming here. Do you realize that?
First of all, okay, again, internal critique. If you're going to do an internal critique, you will have to appeal to the context which stipulates that this was not part of God's plan, first of all. They created beings that were thinking evil and doing evil 24/7. That's clearly stipulated in Genesis 6. So if you're saying that people who are inherently evil, cannibals, killing children, killing the people of the land, should not be executed, on what merit, on what basis are you making such a judgment?
Well, I don't know what basis you're saying that they're cannibals or killing. I mean,
how about as an internal critique? Like who created the humans in your opinion?
Yeah, did you just say that it went against God's plan?
God.
Yeah,
Okay, and who created the Nephilim?
Right.
They weren't created; they were procreated through the mingling between fallen angels and females.
So who
exactly
created the demons?
The demons comes after that. The demons are the souls of.
Okay, put it in this way then. But for God's, in internal critique, but for the creation, done by God, would any of these beings exist?
The reason what these beings or these people existed is because of disobedience, not because of the creation of God.
I'm not talking about that. No, I'm talking about this altered DNA or this, these bad genes that you're talking about. Hey,
Let's try a different tack.
Yeah.
Stan, does anything happen that's not part of God's plan?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Yes. A lot of things happened that was not part of God's plan.
Okay, so he's not all powerful then.
No, he's all powerful,
Right?
but he exercised his will. He exercised his will to not exercise his will every single time.
So he's not all good then, because he allows people to suffer, even though he has the capacity to stop it. He chooses not to. He chooses not to exercise his will.
Are you suggesting that giving people a lesson or making them understand the will of God and what are the consequences of going against that is something not good? Can you explain? Can you show me the logical entailment of such a assessment?
So it sounds like you're saying that God used evil to teach people a lesson, and the lesson was taught by allowing a population of people who descended from humans and some other mythical race. He allowed them to exist and allowed them to do evil, and then murdered them all as a lesson. And so is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you're misrepresenting. Again, if you're doing an internal critique, God cannot murder, because murder means taking something that doesn't belong to you. Life, according to
okay, fine. Killed, whatever.
To find a life.
Whatever word you want to use.
Made them not exist anymore in whatever way.
Okay.
Also,
between murder,
I agree there are connotations associated with the word murder, but those are not what we're looking after right now.
right.
My point is, could God have not figured out a way to teach this lesson without causing the deaths of like hundreds, thousands, millions of people?
And not just people, too. Every other organism on Earth that has nothing to do with the actions of human or quasi-human beings, whatever you believe it is.
Actually, to be honest with you, according to the narrative, again, the internal critique, every person that had that gene, that corrupted gene, were dying already. So they were not alive because they didn't have the breath of life.
And
in them.
again,
Why they were
there's no Bible that says that. You're not going to find a Bible on Earth that says, well, they had the corrupt gene, so they were already dying. That's not a thing.
I also have scientific questions about what a corrupt gene is.
Right.
First of all, let me correct you on your misrepresentation, because it's quite clear in Genesis 2 that the breath of life comes from God. So that's through creation and through
What is the breath of life?
Yeah, what's the breath of life? That's what I want to know.
For me to establish my point, I have to finish a sentence first.
You have to define your terms first.
No. I could do that, but you have to let me finish the first statement, because now you're adding problems over problems. You're adding objections
Right,
over
because
objections.
we have problems on top of problems about the things you say. Even if you don't finish the sentence, we can't even figure out the subject and before we get to the predicate. That's why we stop you, because we want to figure out what you're saying before you say more stuff on top of it.
No problem. Let me first address your first objection, and while I'm doing that, I will address your second objection. All right. First of all, the breath of life, which is activating force within the body of a human being, that gives that human vessel the power to operate, basically. So basically, it comes from God, and it's given or translated or given to people who are procreated by the normal means. So a man and a female would be unified. As it says in Genesis 3, they will become unified in their flesh and give birth to a child, and they would receive that breath of life, which is not the case with these Nephilims.
Okay,
because
so you're saying, in other words, Stan, because these people they didn't have the breath of life the right way, or in the terms you want to use, they had the wrong genes, they were worthy of death.
I'm sorry?
You're saying because they had bad genes, they were worthy of death.
No. I'm saying they didn't have the breath of life, so they're already dead. They were possessed by demons, so they're already dead. So God.
What do you mean they're already dead? If they're living and they're doing things, like, aren't they?
What's your
actually
definition
alive?
of life, Stan? What's your definition of life?
If you're familiar with Genesis 3, when the fall of man came, God said they would die. Obviously,
But I'm familiar with life. I have a degree in biology and another one in medicine. So I'm familiar with life, and I'm curious what your definition of life is if you think that these people were walking around and sinning or something without being alive.
Again, we're doing an internal critique. I hope you guys can follow with your train of thought.
I'm just asking what your definition of life is.
Here's an example, right? If somebody who's dead in your eyes is pregnant, right? Is that fetus also dead in this definition? Like, what are we even saying when we're saying somebody's dead versus being alive? It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so according to the narrative, being alive, God created man and female to live forever. So they weren't supposed to die. So when I say alive, I'm not using biology.
Okay, wait, doesn't that mean none of us are alive? Because we're all fallen at that point?
I'm telling you what the definition of, you're doing an internal critique. Again, try to stick to your own train of thought. We're doing an internal critique. Being alive means to live forever, because that was the purpose of God. These beings
we're not alive? Because I can't live forever. You're saying, I just want to clarify, you're saying none of us are alive.
No, because we're going to live forever. Well, some of us are going to live forever with God.
Did I say that? Or did I say, according to the narrative, being alive, according to the narrative, God is the God of the living. Therefore, the purpose of God was to live forever. So we received the gene that causes us to die because of our disobedience. Now, as it relates to this Nephilim,
now we're going back to making stuff up again, because the Bible doesn't say we got a gene that made us die. That's not what it says.
I feel like we're just at this point just arguing theology. Like, what are some actual truth claims we can make in this? Should we start with what is the proof for Nephilim? Like, what is the proof for that? What is the evidence for that any of this happened?
There is that. We can talk about that, but I'm actually interested in something else. Stan, if I got corrupted by Nephilim genes, should I die for that?
I would like to go to your last misrepresentation, suggesting that the Bible doesn't teach that the sin nature causes us to die. Are you serious? I could give you at least.
No, Stan, I'm talking about how God put a flood down and killed people, right? Ostensibly because they had bad genes, which again, that's literally eugenics, but okay. We're just saying that God is eugenicist now. That's whatever. You're saying that, not me. But if this happened to me, if I interbred with a Nephilim and my Nephilim has a child, you're saying that they're just God can just do whatever they want with them. Like they are just worthy just by existing. Because that's what I'm hearing you say.
I'm gonna clarify, because you're all over the place. If you had sex with a monkey, you, the monkey, and the child deserve to die. Yes.
Okay.
That's my position. And that's
Can you justify that?
What are the chances of that?
That's not how having children works. But cool.
Again, are we doing an internal critique, or are we all over the place?
Okay, so but Stan, if you do an internal critique, then you can't be appealing to these concepts that don't appear outside of the text, right? Like this idea of genes. Like you're saying, we'll do an internal critique, but then you're saying, they have these Nephilim genes or these corrupt genes. Like there's nothing in the Bible about genes. So if you want to do an internal critique, do an internal critique.
6:6 says they had children from fallen angels. That is an internal.
What does that tell you?
What does that mean?
That tells you that they have different genes. Are you saying that having a child with a fallen angel?
Does it say that?
I'm saying people can't have children with fallen angels, but
I do not know what the genetic makeup of a fallen angel is.
I heard they're hot.
Are you acting as if you don't understand? According to the narrative in Scripture, if you have a child with a fallen angel, whatever.
First of all, Stan, let me tell you, we're not acting. We do not understand.
Right. This is not
right.
Stan, how do you know what the genetic makeup of a fallen angel is? Did you do a genetic analysis on a fallen angel to know that they have different genes than we do?
Okay, so are you? I just want to make it clear for the audience listening to you. Are you suggesting that a child being born from a mother and a father is the same thing as a child being born from a fallen angel? Is that where
I don't know what a fallen angel is.
Yeah, how do we?
No, we're doing an internal critique. We're doing an internal critique. You're all over the place.
I don't know what a fallen angel is.
We don't know what a fallen angel is.
It could be. It could.
like,
honestly,
fallen angel is.
Honestly, for all we know, they could be referring to another race of people on the planet, of humans, right? That are just different, and they think that they're somehow corrupted by these genes or whatever, right?
It's true.
And we have
Like,
lots
you
of
don't
evidence
know
for,
what
like,
they meant
xenophobia.
by. Yeah, exactly.
We have lots more evidence that people were afraid of other people from other cultures and tribes and colors in the ancient history books. We have lots more evidence for that.
Yep.
So until you tell us what you mean and what you think the Bible means by Nephilim or whatever, fallen angels, then we're not going to be able to answer your question because we don't know what you're talking about.
And to finish a statement, you'll get a better understanding. First of all, I want to make it clear. You're trying to say having a child from a mother and a father is analogous to having a child with a fallen angel, whatever that means. That shows how desperate you are. Second of all,
this is like the third time you've said that, and none of us have said that. Why do you keep saying that we're saying that? Let me do an internal critique here, Stan. You're making things up, not only about what the Bible says, but also about what we're saying, okay? The Bible doesn't talk about genetics. It doesn't make a genetic excuse for why these people are wrong. It just talks about how everybody's just vaguely corrupt in some random sense. And that's the justification for killing people because, I don't know, that's what the story says. But as far as we know, it's just a story. As both Puck and Erin have pointed out, we don't even know that the story is true, let alone whether or not any of this actually maps to reality. And
I got news for you, Stan. Two humans do not produce genetically identical offspring. Okay, we reproduce sexually, not asexually, which means that our offspring are genetically different from us by definition.
It's true. It's true. And I don't think people should die because they have different genetics. That seems a little sus.
Are you guys muting me, or do I get a chance?
No, Stan. I should mute you, but you haven't. You're not muted so far.
So, quick statement and address, because you said I misrepresented you. First of all,
absolutely yes.
Okay, no, I didn't even make a statement. Absolutely yes. Can I finish a statement? Are you afraid of something? You just stated.
I'm afraid that you're going to lie again and say that we're saying things that we don't actually say. Yes. Because so far that's happened multiple times.
Okay, so let me do it again, and then you could tell me if I misrepresented you. Aren't you?
Okay, we'll just repeat ourselves, but sure.
Okay. Can I make a statement now?
Go ahead.
You're the one.
Mike's yours.
Wow. You seem to have some problem. Okay, so you're the one suggesting.
What's the problem, Stan? Like, it seems like we're not really going anywhere. Like,
hang on. So there's a delay. There's a delay.
Yeah, there is a delay.
Stan, go say your piece.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the hospitality once again. You're the one who stated that having a child with a fallen angel, whatever that means,
No, that's what we're saying, Stan. We never said this.
No, doesn't incur a change in the genes. That's what you're inferring. That is sad.
What we're inferring is that that reproducing sexually with literally anyone as a human incurs a change in genes. Unless you're having a genetically identical offspring, reproducing asexually, you're incurring a genetic change in your offspring.
Analogous to the narrative in scripture that says fallen angels. Are you saying that that's analogous to the example established in scripture? That's first of all. Second of all, you stated that there's no explanation of what it actually entails to have a genetic deformation. I told you that they were thinking evil day and night.
We never said the word genetic deformation.
Hold the phone.
What is happening?
I don't
This is
know
what
what
I'm
a
saying,
genetic
Stan.
deformation is.
Stan, I'm going to let this call go because I don't think we're going anywhere with this, man. And
Well, I figured out how Erin did her tattoo. That's good.
Yeah, we made some progress.
Look,
Stan, this could be interesting. But I want you to, like, if you call in later when I'm hosting 1 week, we can talk about this. But I want you to clarify some of your terms before you do, so we can have a more productive conversation.
yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that we brought this specific story up because it brings in a lot of background information that we could not specifically analyze in a single conversation. One being the fact that, is this story even real? The four of us would say, no, it's not. But given the premise that it is real, we do have to figure out, what do we mean when we're talking about this? Are we talking about, are fallen angels a thing? What does that mean? If they have the capacity to interbreed with humans? And again, my question, I think, still wasn't answered, which I tried to press again and again. Does the fact of their existence justify their killing? Because that is what the narrative says. And yeah, it does say that actions were done by these people. But again, people pregnant with children who have yet to be born were also dead in that, as well as children, as well as families of people, right? This isn't a society full of adults. Like, there has to be kids in there. That, like, you know, it doesn't make sense. And I brought it up as an example of not a great morality tale, because it's not. If human beings justified their decisions based on the decision making that God did, we would literally have people like Hitler. Like, that is not just bringing up Hitler because it's literally Hitler. It's literally saying these people are not genetically qualified to exist. Like, that's fucked up beyond belief. And I don't want to live in a society that says that. So anyway, that's my points on that. Clockwise, Erin, any points on this? No.
Tell me what an Nephilim is.
Yeah.
Like, just we can't get anywhere really, I think, with it unless we talk about what the heck you're talking about. Like, so yeah. Good points made by everybody, I think.
Yeah. Anybody else want to comment before we move on here?
No, just if God has a moral position, he's welcome to call in the show and
That's
talk
true.
just like anybody else is.
That's a great thing to end it on, Puck. I would love to hear from the man himself, the big man upstairs. If he's got a line, we've got a number, you know. But that being said, we need to show you a quick promo of some of the other awesome shows that you can check out through the Atheist Community of Austin. Check it out.
This is so much more fun than the Atheist experience. No one has yelled at me yet.
Right?
Do that. This is so pleasant.
Yeah, we've been talking about brains and porn, which are really like two of my favorite things. So we're in great shape.
So I believe that good arguments are like IKEA or Legos, that you can give me the pieces and the instructions and I can put them together for myself. Let's start by defining it. You tell me what critical race theory is and tell me how that is inherently causing people to become racist, please.
That no single church can afford that $100 million.
I just see it like a kind of thing like buy a Jesus, get your salvation for free.
Nice to speak to you, Kenneth, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten the other fellow's name.
Depending on what show, some people call me Giant Mike, I've gotten, and J Mike, and all sorts of things. So
they call him on his OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're officially recognized as haunted venues. They're called haunted.
Yes, they're officially recognized by batshit crazy people who are fans of haunted houses, just like gods are officially recognized by their devotees. I don't care whether something's officially recognized. I care whether or not there's actual evidence for it.
And now we're back. Man, we are told not to comment on promos anymore because it interferes with other ads on YouTube, but it is so hard not to make any commentary on it. I would like to officiate a haunted house and say that it's haunted. That's all I'll leave it for. If you don't get the context for that, that means you need to watch this on YouTube. But anyway, with that out of the way, we got some other calls, folks. And this next one's a spicy one, too. I'm not going to lie to you. Let's see if this is a call worth taking. We're going to talk to Douglas, who's calling in from Canada. Douglas, you're live on Truth Wanted. What is happening?
I just want to tell you that Donald J. Trump was the best president you ever had. You were lucky to have him, and you guys made a mistake by replacing him. The guy you have now is a bozo.
Okay. Did you want to hear the host's opinion on your opinion? Like, what's your aim here?
Well, I'm just saying that your country is going down a dark spiral because you've chosen a leader who is godless, does not think before he acts, and doesn't have a spine. And he's in the pocket of the corporate Marxists.
So you didn't answer my question. Do you want to hear our opinions back? Like, where are we going with this?
Oh, let's have a discussion, shall we?
I don't know. What do you want this discussion to be? It sounds like you just don't like Donald Trump. Do you want us to say, I do like Donald Trump, or I don't like Donald Trump?
He does like Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, sorry. He does. You're right. He does like Donald Trump. I mean, like, it's so okay. You don't like him, like, because our current president is spineless or whatever.
No. You misunderstand. I do like Donald Trump.
Right.
I want to hear.
Yes.
I want to hear you tell me that I'm wrong.
I don't know if that's even appropriate for this show, to be honest with you. One thing too is, as a nonprofit organization, we can't really talk about our opinions of presidential candidates. And I don't know if that applies to former, but like, you know, like you kind of get an idea of where we're all at on this. Like, I don't know, where do you want to take this conversation, Douglas? Because
do you have any truth claims that we can examine?
Right.
Okay. All right. Forget about Trump. I want to ask you this one question. Actually, I have two questions I want to ask you. Number one.
Oh, Lord.
Pick your best one.
God,
yeah, best one, please.
Okay. If you do not believe in God, how do you think the world came into existence?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I guess I'll start with this one again. It depends on what you mean by world. If you're talking about the Earth, then we're talking about, you know, rocks that were flying around in space, and then eventually they kind of formed together because of gravity, and then that changed over time, and then eventually we got to us. If you're talking about the universe, then we're talking about the Big Bang Theory. That is the best explanation we have available for the earliest events of the universe. It doesn't tell what happened before the Big Bang, or even parts of the Big Bang itself, but it is our best scientific explanation for what we know about the world.
So you're telling me it's the Big Bang Theory? That's your best theory? That's what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's better than a God just made us one day, because based on the available evidence we have, we are definitely evolved creatures. We are definitely on an Earth that has changed over time, and we're definitely in a universe that's billions of years old.
And I mean, strictly, Douglas, I mean, Dan alluded to this, but the Big Bang Theory only addresses like the expansion of the universe after its, you know, air quotes, creation. We have no evidence that the universe was created per se, and we have no evidence that the universe was ever non-existent, right? All we know, the limit of our knowledge, is a couple of, I don't know, microseconds, nanoseconds maybe, after the, you know, like into the existence of the universe. Obviously, we can't, from our position within the universe, we can't examine anything outside of it. And all the things that go along with it, right? All of our methods are based on the constants that came into existence at the time of the Big Bang, which again describes the expansion of the universe and the coalescence of these laws.
Yep.
Okay, so I have another question. If the Big Bang is the theory of how the universe came to be, and there's no intelligent mind, what is the ultimate purpose of life, according to you?
Well, it's not necessarily the theory of how everything came to be. It depends on what you mean by that. You know, physicists would be able to better answer about what exactly the Big Bang is. I think we try to give our best explanation. But
I think I just specified that it's not about how the universe came to be.
Exactly. But as far as what our purpose is, I think that's a construct that humans have made up to feel better about ourselves. I don't think that exists in any objective sense, because if there is no God that has created us, if we are evolved beings, then there is no like teleological explanation for our existence outside of just we exist. We're just a fact of the universe, and some people that makes them uncomfortable. For the rest of us, we've learned to live with it and figure out what to do next. And sometimes that includes going on call-in shows, but other times it means loving your family and doing things that make you happy and just being a human. And that's the best we can ask for.
Okay, well, thank you for the good conversation. Good night.
Okay, well, thank you, Douglas. Well, that ended a little bit differently than I expected, but hey, we'll take it. Any thoughts on that call?
No, you nailed it. I mean, other than going back to like, what exactly does it mean to create a universe? The purpose question is like the only person that's ever asked me what a purpose is someone who's trying to sell a religion. So
Yeah.
like I'm convinced it's like one of those make up a disease to sell the cure kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never liked the purpose question.
I agree with you. I knew a person growing up in church who had this amazing singing voice. And there was this elder in the church that always said, well, God gave you that voice so you can praise him. Like, that's the purpose of why he gave you that. And I always thought that was kind of a very narrow way of using that gift. Like, I'm pretty sure she could sing whatever she wants. Like, she's got quite a range. She could do any kind of music. It doesn't have to be worship music. I don't know if that's specifically why she has to do that, but different strokes for different folks, I guess. But hey, we want to take at least one more call here. Maybe we'll have time if we have for more. I would love to maybe talk to some more people if we can. But before we take the next person, I have to remind you guys that there is a Facebook group that you can join for Truth Wanted. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. You'll see some of the hosts post there sometimes, and also just fans of the show just talk about, again, just stuff that they find interesting and stuff that's kind of in the milieu of Truth Wanted. What exactly that is, I think it's something you gotta have to have a feel for. You kind of have to watch the show a little bit to kind of get what kind of topics we get. But if you like that, you want to continue the conversation, definitely join the Facebook there. And I want to keep the conversation moving. I want to talk to Lauren, who's calling in from Canada. Lauren, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hi, everyone. First, thank you so much for everything you do. You've had such a positive impact on my life and my journey.
Aw. Well, we're happy to help.
So, yeah, what I wanted to ask you guys about is ever since I became an atheist, I have found that I'm way more afraid of death and dying. And I think it's because I used to think there was something after this, an eternal life that might even be amazing and wonderful. And when I kind of let go of that belief, it's kind of left me in this place where I feel like, oh, this is all there is. This is all I got. And yeah, I just noticed that just in my day-to-day life, I'm always thinking about when I die, that's kind of it. So I'm just curious if any of you have had that experience or had those thoughts. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the topic.
My question is, Lauren, who do you want to answer that question first?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, I love all of you, but maybe Erin, because she's fellow Canadian.
Oh,
yeah,
good choice. Good choice.
Sure. I'm happy to address that. I think that it's definitely a really common thing for people to, once they lose their faith, to deal with different kinds of anxiety. So whether that's like anxiety around death or anxiety, some people have like leftover anxiety about hell, or in my case, I had anxiety around like the idea of the rapture. I think that like fundamentally, when we look at these things, to address it as what it is, it's like these experiences of anxiety and what you're experiencing in your body, and maybe even just like addressing like the thought process that happens when we have these moments. So I think looking at it from a mental health aspect and seeing what you can do for maybe looking at counseling, like secular counseling. There's like the Secular Therapy Project and Recovering from Religion Foundation. Even just like listening to how other people have dealt with it in like longer formats has been really helpful for me. I think like just recognizing that the symptoms of feeling that death anxiety feel a lot like the symptoms of other kinds of post-traumatic stress syndrome, and finding those resources to like, address that going forward. I know that it helped me a lot anyway. I did go get some counseling and some trauma therapy after I deconverted, because I had these little, like these things that came up. And for me, it looked a lot like a panic disorder. So treating it as such was really helpful.
Yeah,
I never thought
MD,
of the
you're next.
PTSD side of it.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
missed that.
Oh, I just said that I'd never thought of it as PTSD kind of trauma, but that's a really good point.
Yeah, and like even just like I'm by no means any kind of like specialist in this area, but I think that when we look at like what the actual like the feelings of it are when you're having those moments where you're thinking about death and you're maybe having like that increase of anxiety, like what is going on in your body during that moment, it mimics a lot of the same things as any other kind of panic disorder, regardless of what the topic is too. So treating it as such, treating it as like a mental health thing that you need some help with, I think. And it's definitely not like an uncommon thing, whether you've deconverted from something or there's many other reasons why people have dealt with death anxiety. So it's something that people who are trained in this for like trauma counseling or therapy, it's something that they know how to walk you through it and how to decrease that kind of sensation that you're getting.
Thank you. That's super helpful.
For sure, for sure. All right, now going clockwise, I want MD to answer next if you can.
Yeah, this is an interesting question for me. Obviously, because of my job, I'm a little bit more exposed to death, and I think that's caused me to be desensitized a bit, like especially when I'm dealing with trauma patients, often like very young people or people who I can like sort of similar in age and characteristics perhaps to me. So I mean, a part of my brain turns off a little bit, but I think the way that I deal with it is really the acceptance of the fact. Like literally everyone who ever was and everyone who exists now, as far as we know, is going to die. And I use the D word specifically. I noticed earlier in the show, Erin used like you struggled with saying die, right? You said like passed away or something like that, right?
Specific thing. I was like, do I say it or do I not say it? Because I know that there's different reasons to do both. And I did. I chose the easy way. I said passed away.
Right. So my training, I've done like I deal with a lot of very sick people, and I've dealt with people in like intensive care and stuff like that. And I think it's very important to use the D word. And I think it's very important for people to think about seriously the fact that they're going to die. And it causes anxiety, and I've gone through that. But on the other side of that anxiety, I think is like a sort of peace that you achieve, and then you turn your focus away from this like this desperate scramble to live forever that I think we all have programmed into us through evolutionary biology. And for me, at least, it's turned into, okay, well, what can I do with the time that I have? How can I make my mark? How can I help people around me? How can I do what is most meaningful to me? One of our previous callers talked about purpose, and this is where you get to define your purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when you really seriously consider the fact that you're going to die one day, it makes you think seriously about what you're going to leave behind and what you want to leave behind. And I think it makes you a better person, frankly, for having gone through that process. So it's not easy. I fully agree with what Erin said. Some people need some help through this process, and it's more pronounced for some people than others. But I think it's an important thing to go through mentally, and I think everyone should go through it. And this is one of the harms of religion, is that it makes people not mentally deal with the facts of the matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Puck, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on a weird end of the spectrum, because when I deconverted and started to not believe. The idea of eternal life never sat well with me. I was always one of those, like, I'm actually grateful that there's going to be an end. But because of that, because I understand how differently I think, I also know I'm not a great person to talk to about this, which is why, going back to what we've been talking about before, there are many other people in the community and many other ways to reach out to this community for people who have similar experiences and people who are going to be able to help you out. Thank you, Erin, for mentioning recovering from religion, but also sometimes like making friends in the community, reaching out to other people through the means that we've talked about today. And there are other ones to get to find people who have atheist views and no view of an afterlife and have gone through this process that you can talk to and learn something from or commiserate with, and hopefully create some strong bonds that way, and hopefully some recovery as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sorry that I'm probably the entirely wrong person to be talking to about this, but hopefully there are other people in the community who are better people.
Well, like we've all said so far, well, as not me yet, because I haven't said anything, but like it's a common thing that most people have dealt with when deconstructing. So I also agree with Puck there that it's great that you're able to talk about it now, because I think that means some kind of progress, right? Talking about it out loud to people, strangers on the internet, whatever it is, that is helpful. Talking about from my perspective, if you grew up with a theology like I did, where you're once saved, always saved, you don't really have to worry about your consequences of dying. But there are theologies that don't teach that, specifically evangelical theologies that do say that you have to continue to ask for forgiveness, or Catholic theologies that also are something to that point. And I have heard from many people who grew up in those kind of theologies that that's incredibly harmful, because you don't know the state of your existence, like your soul existence. I mean, right? Like you could get in an accident and suddenly everything could be over. And a lot of Christians constantly pine on that fact. Like they constantly talk about, you have to make sure that you're right with God. And that is abuse, straight up, right? Like that is just an abusive mindset to have, because it means you have to link up with what the church is thinking about things, or what these other people are thinking, or you're committing sin and your moral existence is in terror. It is in peril, right? You have something to be afraid of, because you're going to lose something. And that was something I had to deconstruct a little bit, which was this idea that I could go to hell because I am talking about being an atheist. And the one unforgivable sin is denying the Holy Spirit, right? Like that's one thing people point to. Like there are some people that say, oh, you can be forgiven for anything. Actually, Jesus says that there is that one sin that you can't be forgiven for. Actually, I don't know if it's Jesus. I think Paul talks about that. Anyway, that's bad. It's not good. How do you deal with that? Well, Viktor Frankl, Viktor Frankl is a guy that I have taken, a liking to. He is the founder of logotherapy. He is a Holocaust survivor and also a psychiatrist. And he came up with his ideas when he was, surviving, basically figuring out what is the point of his existence. How do you deal with that? Because being in a concentration camp, it means your existence is pretty dire at that point, right? None of us could ever imagine what that could possibly be like. And yet he lived it, and he lives to tell the tale. Not only that, but also through his practice. And I won't get into the specifics, but there are some principles in logotherapy that are really helpful from a secular humanist point of view, because everything he talks about is something that anybody can gravitate towards. You don't have to have a religious upbringing to make sense of it. You don't have to appeal to the supernatural or some sort of higher calling to really make sense of things. I think that kind of practice is a really helpful, practical thing to do with. Again, I don't have time to talk about it in full, but his book, Man's Search for Meaning, is really cool. And something that I recommend a lot of people who are just recently deconstructing or have been far from the deconstruction to at least check it out, to see what that perspective is like, because we're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to survive in the world. And some of us are coping better than others because we have some mechanisms in place that, we've just had to learn from being in a secular society. Because, hey, Christianity does not do a very good job at, like MDAware said, of coping, especially with death. In fact, it gives it the opposite. It tells you to fear it rather than to understand it. So it's better that we try to know the facts and figure out what we can do from there. So anyway, Lauren, we've been talking a lot here. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's all like hearing your perspectives, like therapy has been so helpful for me, but there's something about hearing from other people that you're not alone and that they have had those kind of thoughts and feelings too that is super helpful. And to what you were saying, Dan, it's interesting because my first kind of step away from religion was becoming a universalist. So believing everybody has a positive eternity. And that was like that first step out. And I think it was tied in. I wasn't aware of it, but subconsciously, I think it was tied into what you were saying about that fear of it could go either way. Am I going to heaven or hell? And yeah, I'll definitely check out that book. You guys have made me feel so great listening to you. Thank you so much.
Well, Lauren, I'm just happy that you decided to call in about it and being honest with that struggle, because that is not an easy thing to do. So anybody who is listening to this, hopefully you can take some stuff from this, because this is something I think affects everybody at some point or another, most of us anyway, especially those of us who grew up in religion. So thanks again, Lauren, for calling in with that. And with that being said, we are getting close to the end of the show, but don't go away, because we are going to be on the Atheist Community of Discord right after this. All four of us are going to be making an appearance, so you can talk to us, hang out a little bit after the show, ask us some more questions, and just generally have a good time. So please come do that, especially if you haven't done it before. Today's the day to do it, because you get to talk to all of us at once. Who knows when we're going to be doing this again? So please do that if you haven't already. And please support the show in all the ways that we talked about before, but also through hitting the join member button. One thing I need to mention as well is when you hit that join button, you're going to get little emoticons with our faces on them, all of our faces on them. It used to be just me, and I'm glad we finally made that change. We got all of our faces, and we got the Truth One logo, so please check that out. Puck.
I'm an emoji?
Yeah, you didn't know about
it was I did.
It's a very exciting date.
I know.
I'm just hoping that's not the April Fool's joke, and that you're not going to like rug pull me and say no. Sorry,
you're an
that was
emoji,
just
Puck. A Puck-moji. Puck is
ever.
Audio listeners, Puck is ecstatic right now. He is. I've never seen that look on his face. He's very excited. So anyway, that's another great way to support the show. This is the part where we kind of wrap things up and we talk about our words of wisdom. And let's just go around. Any words of wisdom from Erin, and then also we're going to thank the crew right after this.
Words of wisdom. I think I'm still kind of thinking about that last call. So my words of wisdom is just that you're wherever you're at in your journey, kind of along faith or deconstruction or any of that, you're not alone. Any of the questions that you have or struggles that you're going through, there's people going through it. So reach out, find people in your community, whether it's local or online. There's people everywhere, and there's always somebody who knows exactly what you're going through.
Very nice. MD?
I don't know. I think I'm out of wisdom after the last
That's
call.
fair. That's fair.
I'm still thinking about that one.
He's a thinker. That one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Puck, any words?
My wisdom is to tune in next week. When Erin and I are going to be on together.
There you go. What a glorious plug. That's the wisdom. Advertising. Great job. I love it. Puck?
And I guess my big word of wisdom is that there's nothing special about us as hosts. Like we're great people. I love working with all three of you, but engaging with the community is such a fantastic thing. And there's so many voices out there that don't have cameras on them. The only reason I'm on here is, because I happen to have the right equipment and some very well-placed bribes. But there's so many other people in the community who don't, that's what they do. They're on Discord and they're on the Facebook groups, and they're wonderful people to talk to and engage with, and some people that you might relate to better than the people you see on camera. So please continue to engage with us.
Okay, so wait a minute. My words of wisdom is Puck is actually very special. I don't know what he's talking about. Very special person, and we are very thankful to have him on, as I am for all of our hosts. I want to say thank you guys, other hosts, for making this show be the thing that it is today. I'm so happy with how it is right now, and I'm so excited to see how you guys continue it. So thank you guys for doing what you do and hosting on this. I also want to remind folks that there is not just the hosts that help make this show happen. There's also the fantastic crew that we have to thank that help make the show happen every single week. Look at that crew. What a bunch of beautiful people. They're just fantastic. They're working hard behind the scenes, and we want to give a special thanks to them. And also remind you that if you want to contact any of us, the email truth@atheist-community.org goes to all of our inboxes. We see all of that. So please, if you want to message us and you want to talk shit about me, that won't be forwarded to me, but it'll be forwarded to everybody else. So you can do that if you really want to. Just putting that out there as an option. So with that out of the way, I'm Objectively Dan.
I'm ExXtian Erin.
It's there, and then
I'm MDAware.
MDAware, okay.
And I'm Puck.
And Puck, and this has been another episode of Truth Wanted. Remember to always keep wanting the truth, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, what a show. We got to do this again sometime. I love being on here with you guys. MD, make sure I get that link to the robot slime thing.
Oh, yeah. I'll send it to you now.
Yeah, that's because doing the bit where he talks at the end of the credits, so everybody can hear. And it's a good bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I gotta go to the little atheist room before we go to Discord. I've had to pee for like the past half hour. So you guys
there he goes. All right. Oh, he's running. He's doing a somersault.
Really good. This is a really good bonding session, though, eh? I feel closer to you all.
Oh yeah, eh? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat, Sundays at 3 p.m. Central, between the Atheist Experience and Talk Hidden. Visit tiny.cc/YTNP.